Yeah, so I've been working on Scourge of Reptiles for a couple of years, two and a
Mhm.
half years now. And it's a role-playing game. It's a retro game. It's sort of built to look like mid 90s.
Mm-mm.
So your pixel art and your kind of top-down aspect kind of thing
Mhm, mhm,
with turn-based combat and role-playing elements.
mhm,
Exploring, looting, all that stuff. The theme of the game is dinosaurs. So Scourge of the Reptiles refers to the dinosaurs.
mhm,
So it's a prehistoric role-playing game, and it's a bit of an idea I had a while back to
mhm,
make something prehistoric where you could roll some dice and kill some monsters, but those monsters happen to be dinosaurs.
mhm, mhm.
And the reason why there's humans and dinosaurs, well, it's fantasy, so just make it up as you go.
Sure,
But
sure.
basically, a big meteorite fell from the sky and
Mhm,
crashed into the planet, which may or may not be Earth. We don't really know.
mhm,
And it came with it a whole bunch of magic, and that magic sort of gave spell casting to the humans, accelerated the progress of their sentience,
mhm,
such
mhm,
that they were able to be in the same time zone as the dinosaurs. But it also had a number of other strange effects, magical powers for various creatures, mutations. So there's all sorts of weirdness going on in the timeline, but also in the biology of the creatures of the world.
mhm. Yeah, I was just going through I got the trailer playing in the background. There was giant beetles
Mm,
that were like,
mm.
7 foot tall. So it's not just dinosaurs there. You're like, hey,
That's
dinosaurs are
it.
the main focus, but if I want to
Yeah.
add something else that's cool.
It's a bit of a hot pot, really.
Mm,
Like I just thought I wanted to put in anything that's damn cool.
mm,
It's a bit inspired by Harryhausen, Ray Harryhausen, who made these stop motion movies that inspired, the likes of Star Wars and
mm,
things
mm,
like that. And so back then, that wasn't just dinosaurs like a million years BC and that kind of thing. There was giant insects as
mm,
well. Your giant scorpions, your giant spiders. They very much featured in these stop motion movies,
mm, mm,
and yeah, they're in the mix, and classical monsters as well.
mm, mm.
You kind of the kind of monsters you might find in a D&D game, like your dragons and your minotaurs and all that.
Right, right. But the way I understand it is it's supposed to be a bit more grounded than that. Like it's mainly
Hmm.
focused on like the the dinosaurs, that prehistoric time, but it's like with magic as well. It's not trying to go all
Hmm.
in on hyper fantasy, if I understand correctly.
That's it, yeah. So you could call it low fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
There's it's kind of it's a vibe of D&D type of world where the magic is slightly less powerful. So that gives it more of a realistic element. A
Mm-hmm.
bit of a survival kind of vibe to it as well. Um, and yeah, the sort of the main driving. The main controlling of the countryside is done by the dinosaurs. So they're kind of in control of the countryside, and the humans are, they're doing the best they can. They're just trying to survive by getting out of reach,
Mm-hmm.
typically.
So,
But
ooh,
yeah.
I was gonna say, are the dinosaurs still just like, are they just beasts, or is there something more there? There is some added intelligence to them as well.
Well, some of the dinosaurs have got additional magical powers,
Mm-hmm.
so it gives them not just a flavor that comes from this magical meteorite. But it also gives them kind of a little bit of a something different to use in combat.
Mm-hmm.
So it being turn-based tactical combat, if everything just has teeth, it gets a little bit boring.
Right,
But if you
right,
if you
right.
throw in magical abilities like some dinosaurs might be able to slow you down. Other
Mm-hmm.
dinosaurs might be able to throw out some darkness into the area. Other dinosaurs might be able to summon minions. This kind of makes the tactical element a bit more interesting.
Right.
Um, so yeah, you never know what you're up against. You might sort of run into a dinosaur that you think it's just a Stegosaurus, but it's going to have a magical power you didn't see coming, and
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be interesting.
Right, because there's only so many interesting things you can do when it's like, okay, so we have a dinosaur. What can they do? They can
Mm.
run, so maybe you can give them a dash. They can
Mm-hmm.
bite.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can give the ones where they have like horns, they could like pick something up and throw it,
Mm.
and
Mm-hmm.
armor. And that's kind of the
Mm.
extent if you just purely go with what like a dinosaur could do. You can't really
Yeah.
really extend it much beyond that with just
Yeah.
trying to fully stay within that realm.
Yeah, and obviously you could say you could give them intelligence, and that will
Mm,
increase their options.
mm,
There is
mm,
some races in the world that are part dinosaur, part human. They're more kind of intelligent,
mm,
so they have spells and they have abilities like intimidation and abilities they can use, skills they can use in combat.
mm,
But the dinosaurs without the intelligence, they might slam you and knock you to the ground. They might take advantage of the kind of terrain around them as well,
mm,
but
mm.
mostly they're just going to be biting you into pieces.
Right.
So, uh, but it's a case of using your abilities, your magical ability, your party's abilities in the best way to survive those difficult combats too.
Mm, mm. So when it comes to combat, at least from what I can tell, like the easiest thing for most people to compare it to now would be something akin to like a Baldur's Gate. Like it's a
Yeah.
CRPG and they're not exactly super common nowadays. You
Mm.
got to go back a few years for them to go back to the 90s and be really common, but even just go
Yeah.
back to like, 2012 or so and you have a couple of things that are sort of
Yeah.
hanging on around then. So,
Yeah, things did change for a while there. And, the CRPG, as you said, was
mm,
super popular in the
mm,
90s. And not just the Western ones, but the Eastern Japanese type ones as well.
mhm,
They had turn-based combat. They had a party of adventurers that you would select,
mhm,
and you would travel around with your whole party. And, you would do quests and things like you would do in any other role-playing game.
mhm, mhm,
But you typically see your whole party from above, and that's the
mhm,
CRPG. Things I don't know, why they became less popular, but it's got to be the invention of the 3D video
mhm.
card, I think, because that
Yeah.
enabled you to do a first-person perspective. So all of a sudden, you had Morrowind, you had World of Warcraft, you had these kind of games where you see either over the shoulder or first-person perspective. And
Mhm,
then your
mhm,
Skyrim, and that's a very immersive game. It obviously takes a lot of developers to make that kind of game too.
mhm, mhm,
And so the old top-down role-playing game became less popular, but
mhm,
I think it's great because when you look down on your party
mhm,
from above, you can really see everything that's happening.
mhm,
You can tactically work out, I want my fighter over there, and I want I want my mage to be hiding behind that rock,
mhm, mhm.
and all that stuff. You can't easily do that in first person with
Right.
even when you've got a party, and you can see that when you play a game like Dragon Age
Mhm,
or you play a game like Knights of the Old Republic. The tactical element is quite different
mhm.
because you basically can't see the whole party at once.
I think
That's
the
why I think that Baldur's Gate 3 went back to top down.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think part of what you were saying about like the invention of like the 3D graphics cards and all this stuff.
Hmm.
I think a big part of the reason why they were so common back in the 90s is because you could make really good looking backgrounds through pre-rendered graphics. And
Yeah.
those games were some of the best looking games in the market. And if you go back and look at them
Mm.
now, yes, the actual resolution of the background texture might be a bit low, but like they had really clear artistic vision for what they were trying
Mm.
to do with those games. And most
Yeah.
of those games, if you look at a game from the 90s that's a pre-rendered graphics versus some early 3D game from then, there is a
Yeah.
night and day difference. The
Oh, yeah.
pre-rendered graphics, it could be an indie game that came out today.
Yeah.
The 3D games, you're like, okay, like I know it looked good for the time, but
Mm.
it in many cases haven't really aged that well, especially when you start moving a bit further forward into the PS1 sort of era. those
Yep.
sort of 3D games really don't age well. But when
Yeah, I
you
agree.
have those beautiful 2D graphics,
Yeah.
that'll be a timeless style.
Yeah. I can go back and play Baldur's Gate number one
Mm,
or
mm,
Fallout number one from the late 90s. I can go back and play them now and still think they look absolutely gorgeous.
mm, mm,
They're hand painted backgrounds in Baldur's Gate, and the characters are animated with, rendering machines. They're pre-rendered into sprite sheets,
mm, mm,
and they look. I think they look gorgeous. They don't have the kind of modern lighting that
mm,
you do in a 3D game now, but in terms of the way that the world looks and the way that the world immerses you, I
mm,
think that hand painted background just looks so good.
mm, mm,
And the same goes, I think, for the tile-based games, like Zelda and the Final
mm,
Fantasy type games
mm,
where
mm,
the world is made up of tiles. I think that quite often those games look really beautiful as well, because a lot of work has gone into drawing each of
mm,
those elements in hand, in pixelized pixel format,
mm,
and they just look very artistic, very stylistic, and I think that the early 3D games, in particular, look terrible in comparison,
mm,
and they didn't really look good to my eyes until about 2002, when you got
mm,
Neverwinter Nights. Mate, 2 came along. Neverwinter Nights 1, I
mm.
think, looked pretty good.
Well, Final Fantasy X came out in
Mm,
2001, and that kind
yeah.
of was like the benchmark for how good 3D graphics at the time could be.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And but before that was PlayStation 2, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Because on PlayStation 1, the textures were so, I don't know, blurry,
Mm,
because they didn't they didn't have the kind of filtering that they picked up on the later console version. So they really look kind of gross.
mm,
They were low texture quality, very small textures.
mm.
And then when you angle the texture, because they didn't have the filtering, it just looked like a blur.
Right.
Did not look good at all. But obviously, you just need more power in your console to handle that.